Nowadays, it's easy to look at Bluey and recognize all the characters and the dynamics between them. But have you ever wondered what the show would be like if something was switched around? There's a theory on the internet that many people went crazy over back when the episodes were still being released, which says that Aunt Brandy is probably Bingo's real mother, and that, for some reason, she gave Bingo to Chili for adoption. Since she really wants to get pregnant and have children, people picked up on the ambiguity of the episode, especially the scene where we see her arms outstretched while Bingo runs away, as if what she wants most and can't have were literally Bingo. But this theory is full of holes because Joe Brum doesn't waste any plot introduced in the series, and this is too heavy of a revelation to remain just a fan theory without being addressed in other episodes later on. And after The Sign, we already know that Brandy actually got pregnant and achieved her dream. But still, I know you like imagining other possibilities just like I do. So, how would some episodes of the series be if Bingo weren't Bluey's sister but her cousin instead? How would the series change? And would that be better or worse? Which episodes simply wouldn't exist without Bingo? You know what time it is, so grab your snack, because these are the questions we're going to answer in this new Bluey Theory video here on Zigzag. Since we're doing this exercise, it's only fair to start with the very first episode, Magic Xylophone. This episode is the perfect introduction because we meet all the main characters and the chaotic playtime dynamics that Bandit gets caught up in at home. Like, for example, being frozen in time every time one of the girls plays a note on the xylophone. But here, we know that Bingo and Bluey are sisters. So if she were Brandy's daughter, the episode would have to make it clear that Bingo was visiting her cousin's house. And the rest of the episode could happen pretty much without changes, because it's just a silly game between kids and a very patient adult. In fact, the same message could be maintained, that Bluey needs to learn to share toys and include her cousin in playtime, just like in the original episode. Now, one scene that I'm almost sure wouldn't exist in this new version of the series is the moment we learn about an important part of Chili and Bandit's past. In the episode The Show, there are two important things to consider here. Bingo gets sad because she spilled Chili's breakfast on the floor, and then Chili teaches Bingo that the show must go on. That's when Bluey gets the idea for them to put on a performance for their parents to keep celebrating that special day. The first point is, this episode would have to have a completely different premise because it happens on Mother's Day, and Bingo gets sad because she thinks she ruined that special day when she spilled the food on the floor. I don't know if it would make sense for Bingo to feel bad about it, or even be at someone else's house on Mother's Day, let alone want to serve breakfast in bed to her aunt, unless it was some special family situation where she was closer to her aunt than to her mother, or if she were adopted. But in that case, nothing would change because she would still be Chili's daughter, just like in the official show. So that's why the whole Bingo is adopted thing makes zero sense, because at the end of the day, it changes nothing. And the second point is, if they were cousins, I find it hard to believe that Bingo would be curious about how her aunt and uncle met, and even less likely that she would want to put on a little play to reenact it. When I was around that age, I didn't care that much about anyone except my parents, so I think this whole episode would be completely different in order to use the idea of the performance for Bandit and Chili. And with that said, we definitely wouldn't have the key moment of this episode, the balloon popping on Bingo's belly, since they wouldn't be reenacting what it was like when Chili was pregnant. Do you agree that this episode would be completely different, or do you think it could stay the same? Let us know in the comments using the hashtag #cousins. One of the most memorable episodes of the first season is Sleepover, and you can probably guess why this episode is on the list. This is the episode where we really get to know Muffin and her chaotic personality, and in the original series, she is Bluey and Bingo's cousin. All the drama and comedy in this episode revolve around Muffin skipping her afternoon nap and now being completely overtired. But the cousins are eager to play all night, and Muffin too, because she refuses to sleep. This is an episode that could remain almost entirely the same, but with the detail of it being two cousins visiting Bluey for a sleepover instead of only Muffy. It could be a visit from Bingo and Muffin, and the rest could stay the same. Since Bingo is also a bit older, The idea of Muffin adjusting to not taking an afternoon nap could remain the same as well. The biggest change in Bingo not being Bluey's sister anymore would be in the series' core structure for each season. That's because Bingo would no longer be one of the protagonists, since she wouldn't be the main character's sister anymore. Because of that, several episodes of the series would have to be altered or cut out entirely to make room for new episodes that treated Bingo as a secondary character. One of the episodes that would probably be cut is Daddy Drop-Off, where the girls make it difficult for Bandit to take them to school. This episode would have to be cut for two reasons. First, Bandit wouldn't be Bingo's dad anymore, so he wouldn't need to take her to school. And second, since this episode focuses heavily on Bingo and the development of her friendship with Lila, with her becoming a secondary character, it would no longer be necessary to show this friendship, which could become a background element in other episodes instead. And that could give them the chance to either focus on other characters or take a different approach to the following episodes if they still wanted to explore that. Another episode that wouldn't make any sense to exist is Bedroom, where Bluey feels mature enough to have her own room separate from Bingo. The reason this episode would have to be cut is obvious, right? In this new version, Bluey wouldn't need to build up the courage to sleep without Bingo, because that would already be her daily life. Bingo would just be a visitor. So all the comedy bits of Bandit moving things around and them swapping room items wouldn't need to exist. But you know what does need to exist? Your subscription to the channel. So go ahead and click that button. And don't forget to turn on notifications. Since we're talking about Bingo, there's no way not to mention the amazing episode Sleepytime. And man, what is there to say about this episode that hasn't already been said countless times? Right? For sure, it's most people's favorite episode. And as we mentioned in the previous topic, Bingo would become a supporting character and wouldn't live in Bluey's house anymore. Meaning, this would also be an episode that would definitely never have existed. But then again, if you stop to think about it, maybe this episode could still work if you changed some of the other characters in the plot. Think about it. Instead of Chili reading the story to her and being the sun in her dream, it would have to be Brandy. Instead of Bandit getting his nuts stepped on, it would have to be Brandy's husband, whom we still don't know the real identity. Scenes like Bingo running with Bluey on the planet or Bandit singing to Bluey in the bathroom would have to be replaced with other things since Bingo would be an only child. But even so, it could still work as one of those episodes that leaves Bluey aside and focuses on the supporting characters. It would also be a great chance to see Brandy in action. And this whole change in the family dynamic of the series would also eliminate the episode One-Easies, which originally presents Brandy in a totally different way. As here, she is sad about not being able to be a mother. And instead of having scenes like this, where Bingo moves away from her warm, outstretched arms, we could have other beautiful moments between mother and daughter. It would be different from Bingo and Chili, of course, but it would give the series a totally different life.